అదే Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. I'll just take 5 minutes. We'll start. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So we are good to go now. Can we start?
Yes, miss.
Okay. So, students, today I'm going to talk about industrial IoT, and I'm going to give you a lot of example of because I think I got in the morning some message about some kind of a sensor or IoT device you people have made, and I will talk about that later. So I thought today, why not talk about? And somebody told me that you had a very good session on smart city. So I talk about smart factories now, which is also something very, very opportunity in terms of IoT. So I'm going to take today the case on IoTs. Okay, so let me start. Just give me a second, right? Just give me a second, right? I'll try to. Just give me a second. I'm unable to share the screen because I'm trying it. Just give me a few seconds. Just bear with me. So just give me a second. I'm just trying to log in from the other ID because this ID is not giving me the option of sharing the screen properly.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Okay. So let me start. There's a lot of noise. Is it coming from? Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Ma'am, actually, the voice is echoing, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to talk about industrial. Okay. Can somebody stop this? 1 minute.
The voice is echoing, ma'am. We are not able to hear you properly, ma'am.
Just a minute. Now is it okay? It's okay now, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it is clear now, ma'am.
Okay, so let's start with industrial IoT today. And we will look into that because IoT is all about sensors and how do you gather the data using sensor? How do you analyze the data? In IoT, you can use AI. You are also using the cloud computing platform. So we are going to talk about that today. I'm going to also share, some kind of a insight with you that how industries are using with some examples. So let's start with something. The topic of today's discussion is industry IoT, and we are talking about industry IoT. What is industrial Internet of Thing or IoT? Industrial IoT, the short form for industrial Internet of Thing, originally actually described that Internet of Thing is basically a kind of a concept which came up with another term called Industry 4.0. And especially in the manufacturing industry, just give me a few seconds. Just give me a few seconds. I'm just providing something. Just give me a few seconds because there is the PPT which I want to open is not getting open. Sorry about this. Just give me a few seconds. Okay. So when I'm students, I'm talking about the industrial IoT. Before I go about industrial IoT, I would just a minute. So just before talking about the industrial IoT, I would like you to understand the concept of Industry 4.0. And what is this concept? I will just explain you through one article, which is a very good article on that, how the sensors and the basically the IoT or technology is going to bring a lot of revolution in the terms of Industry Revolution 4.0. So that is what we are going to discuss. So if you see here, if you can see the screen, the Industry 4.0 is basically a industry. We're talking about the fourth revolution in the industry, in the manufacturing industry. The first revolution, if students you can see, was where in around in early 19th century, when you had the mechanism system, like manual systems were there, and steam power was used as an energy concept, and the entire concept of manufacturing was manual. Mass production was used to happen, and the energy resource was steam, like you had steam run railways and all those kinds. The second industrial revolution happened in the mid of 19th century, where I'm talking about 19th century, that means 18 around 1850 or something like that. So at that time, the second revolution happened when when the factories moved to certain kind of a automation and moved into mass production assembly line. So assembly line means that the production will happen in various parts. Like for example, your car is an example of car manufacturing is an example of assembling line. Means you make the part, the different part of the car are made by different department in a factory, and then finally all the part comes and it get assembled and the final product comes. For example, in the car, you have chassis, engine, then you have the motor, and then you have the other parts which are and the body. So all are made by different department and then it is assembled. So that's the assembly line which concept came in Industry 2.0. And from steam engine, it shifted to electrical engines. Even railways were using electrical engine. So there was a very huge revolution at that time. The third industry revolution came during the beginning of the 20th century, where automation started, where computers started. So in 1920, 1940, 45, people started using automation. Then after that, slowly the growth happened till 21, 5 and 6. There was a huge revolution where companies started using robots, General Motors, Ford Motors. Now every companies are doing. They started 3D painting before a robot doing the painting of the all heavy industries were using the robots and computers and automation. Now is the Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0, we have already entered into it, but maybe in India, if you can say, the Indian position may be at a very, very nascent stage. But in Europe, in the Western countries, especially in Europe, you may find all the guy, like for example, the Volkswagen factory or the Mercedes factory in Germany. All these are very highly equipped, factory with the entire. I'll show you a video of the Mercedes, transparent factory in not Mercedes, Volkswagen parent factory in Germany, in Dresden, and how they use AI, how they use, there is no manual labors, and how the customers can come and also customize their car in itself in the factory. They can see the car making in front of them, and they can add certain kind of a personal touch to it. So Industry 4.0 is totally about smart factories, totally about IoTs and machine learning. So today you have ample number of opportunities in the manufacturing units where they are using sensors So you can make sensors for them. I will talk about different kinds of industrial sensor today. And also you can use machine learning, because sensors will do what? They will just collect the data. And the machine learning will apply those data and take actions. So just like in a normal factory, old days, when a labor used to run a factory manually, he will use his all senses. In human body also we have IoTs. We already discussed about it. That is your eyes, a nose, all your five sense organs. And through that we basically sense, collect data. It goes to our brain. Our brain has a cloud computing, which is memory, which store the data. Then our brain has a processing unit which process this data through some application program, and then it basically we do the action. So similarly, when the factory in the factory, when the laborers were taking some action depending on the data collected from his five senses, he will take action manually. Now all these actions are automated. And even if suppose there is a fault, if there is something which is going to hamper the production of the factory, then the laborers take certain decisions which is not routine decisions, which is not a structured or operational decisions, which is not taken on day-to-day basis. There can be some unusual incident which can happen. So machine learning can come into that picture when there is some extraordinary or novel condition happens. There's a problem which never happens on a day-to-day basis. So today we have the entire factory running itself on its own. Today the situation is such. Initially there was a time. Just a Initially there was a time when a factory used to operate at a particular time when labor will come, or maximum it will operate from morning till the night, and in the night, the late night, the factory won't operate because no laborers will work. Today the factory runs entire night because you don't require laborers. The labor, there will be few supervisors who will sleep in the factory, and the machines will automatically do the work, and the sensor will take sense and see. They are the eyes, and they are the watchdog of the factories, so you don't require people. So that's the era which we are reaching, students, today. Now let's see that. So it is like more than 5 years that how the IoT, the digitizations has actually changed the entire manufacturing industries. And also when we are talking about this, how, so I'm just going to share now the PPT with you. But before that, let me complete little bit part of it. So when I was talking about industrial revolution, students, in next 5 to 10 years, there will be a big change in the whole manufacturing industries. And this change is because of the sensors and because of the big data. So the question is how fast it can happen, and what it is going to, when it is implemented, how it is going to improve the efficiency of the production units. Okay. So industry 4.0 has a lot of name. Sometimes people say smart factory. Sometimes people name it as cloud-based manufacturing factory. So smart manufacturing, cloud-based manufacturing factory, all are something where you are using different kind of technology. You are using sensor to control your process. You are using machine learning to take actions. You are using cloud computing to store your data. So there are so many technologies which are making a factory smart today. Not only it is increasing the production efficiency, it is also helping in reducing waste. You know that if I take the example of Parle G factory in Bangalore, the Parle G factory basically make a star product of them is a glucose biscuit, right? And that glucose biscuit is like a very popular biscuit in India, especially in 2 tiers and 3 tiers, where people are so fond of this biscuit that this is also called tea biscuits. And it's a very cheap biscuit, everybody can afford it, right? This biscuit is when manufactured initially, there was a labor process where the dough for the biscuit was kneaded manually by the laborers, just like in a bakery. And then it was put into a container which will have a shape, the logo, and then the logo will be printed. most of the time it used to happen, the shape of the biscuit will not be the rectangular, and or maybe the top of that where they write Parle G, their logo, they make it, and they write they inscribe the design, that will be uneven. Now, when it goes to the packaging division, the biscuits which are uneven, or maybe it is not fully rectangle, it is triangle. Some biscuits have the logo not printed properly, the name not printed properly, design not printed. They used to discard that as a quality purpose. And this process used to happen manually. When the laborers will, like as I said, assembly line, so the laborers will stand in the line, and the belt, the conveyor belt will bring all the biscuits. They will from the hand pick up all those manually, those biscuits which are not in the shape, and then do this. Then slowly the other process came where automation started happening. Automation, and now what was happening in the Parle G? Though many, there was a lot of huge wastage of the biscuit, because the biscuit which are not in shape, the biscuits which are which doesn't have the logo printed, what they will do with that biscuit? They can't sell it to the consumers. They can't take the risk of losing consumers. So what they used to do, they started a method. Okay, fine. They started donating those biscuits, because that is a biscuit only. Only the shape is not good, right? So they started selling that biscuits to orphan, not selling. They started actually donating that biscuit, but it is a loss of money for Parle G company, because there is a huge wastage. Now today Parle G company, when I think 3 years back, I took students to Parle G factory. I saw that they have using sensors, they are using everything, and it alerts the system, and manually or by automatically they know that the biscuits are not coming in the shape, or it is not printed properly. So has reduced the amount of wastage, not only in terms of the final product, but also the raw material. So this is a very interesting, revolution which is happening. And this revolution is revolving around different kinds of sensing technology, big data, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, adaptive robots, and various kinds of control application programs, which are making the factory smarts. So you have an ample opportunity. So you all can come together and do a joint project where you can make some industrial sensors, and where the students who are learning the AI, the students who are learning IoT can make a sensor. Students who are learning cloud computing can store the data, help the sensor to connect to the cloud computing and store the data there. And the AI people can develop a robot, or maybe they can develop a machine, through machine learning, they can develop an application which can control the process, right? So process control can happen using that. What is the benefit of this? The benefit of doing this is that there is the efficiency, enhanced productivity, there is decrease in the wastage, the production time has reduced drastically. You don't have to wait. Imagine those time you can ask your parents, when we wanted to buy even a Maruti car, you have to wait for 6 to 7 months minimum to get the car, because the production volume was very less. The production capacity was less because of the technology. Today, the production capacity, because of the smart factory and the real-time monitoring, because of the sensors, we are talking about industrial sensors, have changed the production time, has reduced the production time. So everywhere you have that kind of a thing. So there are a lot of things which is happening in the industry. One is the smart sensors, as I said, cloud computing, and there are a lot of advanced algorithm also, and also the big data is analyzed, predictive maintenance is done. Predictive maintenance helps the factory to go for lockdown kind of situation. For example, let's say there is a breakdown of machine, and it takes certain days to repair it, and the factory production stop. That means loss of money. Now this doesn't happen. Predictive maintenance means before the error happens, or before there is any kind of a problem happens in the machine, it predicts that this particular machine, or maybe if you are using this machine, this is a wrong way to use, there will be a problem and the machine will stop working. or it may tell that this particular part is getting spoiled or damaged, you have to replace. So predictive maintenance is started, and this is because of smart sensors. So the machines have smart sensors. The smart sensor collect the data, which goes to the cloud computing. Then there is an application based program which can use AI, and that application basically analyze the data and understand, and then the action is taken and automation happens. So there's a huge benefit of this. There is a totally automated process control which is happening. So the future factory or today's factory, which is moving to a in the smart factory or smart using a smart sensor platform, is something which you people are going to see in your thing, and there's a lot of opportunity in that area. Now let's look at the various kinds of the industrial sensor, and also understand which are the companies and how they are using the sensors. So today's entire thing will be focused on that. So as I already told you about industry 4.0, so you take any industry, whether it is a logistic industry, it's an oil and gas, it's a transportation industry, it's a mining industry, it's aviation, any sector you take, students, the Internet of Things is going to get applied in all these main type or different sectors of the industry, manufacturing units. So IoT is basically focusing on optimizing the operational efficiency, optimizing the or automating the system, or doing a predictive maintenance so that the factory keep on running 24/7, 365 a day. So the use of IoT, the Internet of Things, has opened up plenty of opportunity in automation, in optimization of your resources. I gave example of Parleji to you. Doing intelligent and smart manufacturing, making the manufacturing industry smart, also managing your supply chain, your wastage of the raw material or finished good or semi-finished good. It helps in maintenance. And so there is a total shift towards a demand service model, right? Because we are no longer in a mass production. We are basically on demand production. That also we tell in the management term just in time production. Whenever there is a demand or whenever there is a order, then only the industry can go. And because see, the production time should not be very high. If it is very high, the client, you will lose the client. The client will go to a particular company which can give them the product within less number of days. So industrial IoT focus on the interconnectedness of hardware and software with the use of technology to manufacture product and service within a short period of time and the quality product. Okay. Now we will look at certain more statistic. If you see that how industrial Internet of Things are becoming huge success, and how it is what are the benefit of that. If you see the benefit of industrial and IoT, the benefit is that it is improving the operational efficiency. Your production time has come down, your quality has improved, you are improving on your productivity, it is creating a new business opportunities. Companies are using their factory. Morning they may build something, and in the night they may produce something else, so it can go for diversification. There is a reducing downtime. Downtime means the machines are not down, or machines are not stopped because it is not working. Every time it is running because of the predictive maintenance. It is maximizing the resource utilization, whether it is human resource or whether it is a raw material, machine, money, everything. Ability to sell the product also, and reduced life cycle cost. It also handle a problem which is very big, which is the worker safety. The workers who are required to work, I'll show you something and you will understand what I'm trying to tell. Especially the workers who work in the dairy farm or dairy manufacturing. I have gone to mother dairy factory with students, and I saw that when the milk is boiled, the boiling of the milk happen in the and the kind of a pressure applied and the temperature which generate, it is in human to have a human labor standing in that, because the entire roof, the floor and everything becomes very hot. But because if it is a manual process, the workers need to be there, and you cannot use any cooling method to cool the floor and the walls. So they sweat like anything, and in that sweat they basically have to stand there and manually monitor those pressures or those kinds of units. So that is how the workers safety, workers most of the time, because of this, the high temperature or maybe very cold temperature, low temperature, may cause a lot of serious health injuries to them. So that has been reduced because of IoT. You don't require a person to be there and monitor it. It will be done. So now I'm going to show you a video, students. And with this video, you will understand that what is actually how the industry IoT works.
This is Khalid, operations manager at a chemical plant in the Middle East. He had to shut down Unit 2 yesterday because a compressor failed. This cost his company a lot of money. When looking at the data, Khalid can see the compressor's performance declined before it failed. Khalid would like to improve compressor reliability by changing operating guidelines. And with Honeywell Connected Plant, he can. Enterprise intelligence tools from Honeywell will help Khalid develop a protocol for operating and predictive maintenance. Here's how it works. Compressor performance data from multiple sites is aggregated in Honeywell's secure cloud. In the cloud, Khalid.
So let me tell you, students, that Honeywell is one of the topmost company. Now they are also in the cloud computing, but they are the topmost company, and they are known for making mainframe and supercomputers. And so this company has also, every company has now cloud computing business, which is very attractive. So I was talking about predictive maintenance, that how if you don't have a predictive maintenance, the downtime of the machine can hamper the production and the productivity and lead to a loss. So how Honeywell has applied or used, help. Honeywell has helped with the help of their IoT sensors and the cloud computing based application program to reduce this downtime and do the predictive maintenance.
Along with process and compressor experts, uses data analytics to determine best operating guidelines and pinpoints a benchmark that predicts when compressor performance will degrade and break down. The process and OEM experts discover the root cause of failure. They tell Khalid how to operate the compressor until it can be repaired. They also explain what repairs are needed. It used to take Khalid weeks to determine what triggered a shutdown and how it could be prevented. This time, working with his partners in the cloud, it only took a day. Even better, now Khalid has predictive maintenance KPIs that tell him when to perform maintenance on compressors and prevent unplanned downtime. Applying the new protocol to all compressors at the plant improves overall equipment effectiveness by 4 to 5%, which means $10 million added to the bottom line. Not bad for a day's work. Khalid also knows that a more reliable plant is a safer plant, and that's better for everybody. Better reliability with Honeywell Connected Plant.
So students, you have seen that there was an example that how a particular person who was facing a huge problem because he was using compressors and those compressor downtime was increasing, was high, and because of that his production used to hamper and used to suffer a huge loss. And he approached Honeywell IoT, industrial IoT solution, and which has actually done a predictive maintenance. So before a particular, it will monitor the system, collect the data, monitor the system, and it all happens remotely. Honeywell people are not coming there and standing and doing everything, or they did not need. So sensors is applied, the sensor collect the data, which goes to the Honeywell cloud computing, platform. And from there is an application which is developed by Honeywell, which will basically monitor the pressure and compressor working conditions, and will predict that weather, and will also guide the Khalid, who was a person here, that how you can actually reduce the downtime, and whether there is going to a kind of a failure in the machinery or not, and help in guiding him to improve the efficiency and how to optimize his operational efficiency. So this is one. I will take one of the best example, and I love this company. This is a company which is called General Electrics. Today, General Electric is a company which started by Thomas Alva Edison inventing a light, a bulb, and started a company called General Electrics, and it is more than now 100 years old company. And the company from electricity, from developing the various kind of light technology, went to electric equipments. From electric equipments, now today the company is making all kinds of industrial machines, medical equipment, your MRI machines, CMR machines, all those are made by, most of them are made by, the parts in that are made by GE. The aircraft engine has a part which is made by GE. So there are so many things GE is doing. And if you understand, the GE is also, helping in energy sector, where the windmills, the solar energy, all these things, they are doing it. Okay. You can go to the site and you can read the story. Students, when I tell you something, and when I say that you do this, there is a entire purpose of telling you that, because the purpose is that you should go to those site and read the story. You never know, you will be a very lucky person if you get a job in GE. They're a high pay master, and they're very innovative. They have a very good culture, and the growth is very fast. So don't take anything very casually. You can go to the GE. GE has a lot of cases and client stories, where also they have pictures, videos posted. I use it for my class, where I tell them that how they basically GE do marketing, how do the GE improve their process, how do the GE had project themselves now as a digital company. So GE now no longer say, every company today tell everybody that we are a digital company. We are not a manufacturing, though GE is a manufacturing company. The GE has come up with a term called industrial internet. They were the first people in 2012 which said that we will not call it industrial IoT. We will call it industrial internet. So they estimated that industrial internet could be $225 billion market by 2020, and it has come truth. So that means the growth of IoT has increased, and the application of IoT in manufacturing industry is tremendously increasing day by day. There is a huge investment in terms of developing the industrial sensors to automate or to monitor the process. And this was created by GE, the GE Digital. They also have a dedicated software business units, which is also developing the industrial solutions. So, just a minute. So when we are talking about GE is also a company which has formed the Industrial Internet Consortium. What is consortium, students? Consortium means that when a company becomes an industry leader, so like Walmart, they are the giants, and they are the industry leader of, retail industry, right? They are the one of the topmost and the biggest company in the world in terms of retailing. So Walmart also has a consortium of all retailers. So consortium means, when it's like in India, we call it as association. When different similar industry people form an association and discuss the latest growth and share those knowledge and talk about everything, what can be the standard, what can be the various things, they can rules, regulation, what can be the cost, that's called consortium. So GE has actually founded the Industrial Internet Consortium online, where all the similar industries can come and be a part and be a member of that consortium, and can accelerate the development, adoption of new technology, widespread of interconnected machine and a device. They share the information. They share the information with each other. So industrial internet of the GE, which is nothing but industrial IoT, has brought a huge digital transformation in the industry, in the manufacturing industry. So GE is also helping their customers like Schindler, Bosch. Bosch basically buy from them the ignition, part which is used in electric cars, right? The Bosch doesn't make that, but a Bach actually buy it from them and then do a little modification and add something and sell it to the Reva car. Okay, just give me, I'll just off my video because the internet is fluctuating. Just a minute. Can you see the slide still?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So digital transformation of GE also included a kind of a software which they shared with the other industry people, which is called Predix. Predix, I want you all, I will just write in the chat box the name. The Predix is actually a cloud-based, just a minute, huh? I'll just write. So this is you can check it online. Predix is the cloud-based operating system for industrial internet. I want all the students who are doing industrial internet to check this out. Because tomorrow, if you have this kind of a knowledge, you can, it's not necessary that you have to go to GE only and talk about Predix. Predix operating system for industrial IoT is developed by them, but it is a system which they share with everything. Like it's kind of become a, I will not say it entirely like an open source, but they are sharing with everyone. Okay, they don't have any copyright on that. So GE actually estimated that industrial evolution will add 2.8 trillion, dollar to, or I'm sorry, in Europe, it is a euro, to the GDP of Europe by 2030. That's the reason I'm saying Europe is very advanced in terms of manufacturing. They are the people who have entered the Industry Revolution 4.0 in 2012 itself. Whereas in India, we started entering into from 2018 onwards. So we are at a very nascent stage, whereas Europe has advanced. And Europe GDP is increasing because of this, smart factories. And that is the reason why their economy is growing. They are becoming very competitive. Their products, especially they are the hub of the transportation, or the supplier of the transportation segment in for the entire world. So industrial internet of GE basically enable them to, reduce their energy consumptions. Also made them, use several other form of sustainable energy. So, as I said that the transformation which was called Industry 4.0 is a practice of using embedded sensors in machines which can talk to a central software system, which can be coupled with cloud computing, data analytics, artificial intelligence. So companies are actually using industrial Internet of Things to target,
I think, manufacturing.
Just a
point where they are.
I'll just show you first the GE thing, that how GE is using the industrial IoT, and then I will talk about that.
I think manufacturing right now is under a lot of challenge. There's a lot of demand, supply is challenging, and things like waste or downtime in factories is just not acceptable. Digital transformation is really becoming important. The urgency of getting digitally transformed within these manufacturers is continuing to just kind of drive and drive and drive.
This is an exciting time for the manufacturing industry. Manufacturers are increasingly using analytics to look at how can they on a daily basis improve their operations. When we think about optimization for manufacturing, you can think of it in stages by first analyzing if they're efficient enough in their operation. The second step could be looking at how can they improve the quality, or what are the metrics that are driving quality. And then once they do these two metrics, you can start looking at the waste. Is the waste more on energy consumption? Is the waste more on material that they're using? Is the waste more on labor? We can help customers, even identify problems that are hidden. You need a software that can scale and work with the customer as they are trying to optimize each stage. That is what GE Digital provides.
GE Digital's customers want to use data really to harness predictive insights when they can take the data that they've got and determine, what's going to happen next. How can I trigger my operations to be more efficient ahead of the game? And that could be for a specific production line, for a full plant, or even across their entire enterprise. It's pretty exciting for them to be able to apply analytics and really be more in control of what's going to happen.
Every customer I speak with now, we always get deeper into what can you do for us for sustainability.
Once you have data, once you have the software that can make sense of that data, manufacturers can actually reduce the amount of water usage or power usage. Energy optimization can help them achieve two goals. One is reduce the cost of their operation, which increases their profitability. The second one is it helps them achieve their sustainability goals that they have set for their organization.
At the end of the day, right, this data enables them to get to the point where they are reducing waste, they are improving quality, they're reducing consumption, the impact we are having on the world, especially as we think about energy transitions, reducing consumption that manufacturers, the challenges they face every day. We're tackling real world problems.
I just continue to see customers being able to take more and more advantage of data and the software that looks at that data and really be able to expand what they're trying to accomplish.
Okay. So GE Digital, which they started this, trying to help the other industry becoming a smart industry, and they named their business as this. So this is their one of the unit under the GE, which is called GE Digital, which try to give that kind of a help to their client to. Can you all see? Excuse me. Can anybody tell me that you can see?
Black screen.
You didn't see that?
No, ma'am.
We saw the video, ma'am, but now
Blank slide, madam.
Okay, fine. So now the blank already, the slide is blank only, but I was getting some indication that it's not shared. So the GE, what they did is they brought a team of a software and they got this software who had an understanding of various manufacturing unit and built the application of industrial IoT. And this group is making embedded, sensors for the machines to analyze the machines working, to analyze certain levels, certain light pressure, temperature, all those sensors. And also they made the software which was hosted on the cloud computing platform. And this software served the entire world and entire industries, helping them in reducing the energy consumptions, helping the airline to manage their operations, helping the electricity companies to manage their grids. And in a way, they also help in reducing the greenhouse gas emission, by reducing the energy consumptions and making them use sustainable energy. In 2024, which is coming year, the GE is going to begin a new chapter, which they are already preparing for it. And I'm going to write that in the chat box. It's called GE Vernova, which is one of the three companies that will form a next chapter in GE. That means about one more subsidiary of GE. And I don't know how many of you know, you have watched the movie of Steven Spielberg. right? Jurassic Park and all. You are fascinated by his story. I don't know how many of you know that his father Arnold Spielberg was also a scientist who had worked in GE, and he has made certain computers and certain machines and automated that. So he is there. So you can just go to the site. So you can go to the GE site and you can see some stories. You can also talk about that. Okay. So now the next is, what are the common IoT standard in industrial automation? See, it is not about making a hardware or a software piece. It is also about following industry standard, because you can make a low quality sensor also which will not work. So what kind of quality standard they follow? This is very important when you people are making any industrial sensors, or when you are developing anything, you should have a knowledge about this. So what is the knowledge? The IoT standard used in industrial automation basically try to regulate each level of industrial automation system. So a very common IoT standard is actually, so IoT standard, when we talk, it actually, the standards can be divided or categorized into three levels. There can be a standard at management level, where the management people of the factory or the manufacturing units are just monitoring and taking certain decisions. It can be at the level of control and communication, like supervisor level, or it can be in the level of field level. Okay, just a minute. So what happens here? The very common IoT standard which is used by the industry. Just give me a second. It is not working properly. I'll just improve this and then I'll come back to you. Okay, fine. Vicky, can you just reduce your sorry about that. So I'm going to just share that, and I will tell you the standard, because it's very important, students, that you also know the rules and regulation when you're developing any software or a hardware piece. Okay. So when we are talking about this, when we are talking about the industrial, standard, one of the standard is IEEE IEEE 802, which is used at a management and application level to connect multiple devices and controllers. So these are also Ethernet based industrial, network, like for example, Profinet, industrial Ethernet, and IP. IP is, again, you all know what is it, internet protocol, what we follow. So Ethernet is also known for its large data capacity and ability to support multiple communication platform on the same wire. And one of the common Ethernet based standard for communication in the industry, in the power generation industry especially, is substation, is IEC 61850. Okay. The standard regulation which communicate between different equipment in a substations, or do a production control, do a measurement of the equipment, or maybe a kind of a intelligent electric device, IED, all those are using IEC 61850 standard. So that's a quality standard every company need to follow. And there are other more level which I'm going to tell you. At a field level, you have certain more standard, which is like at a factory and at the machine level when the workers are working, and when machine in the machine when you are putting the sensors, the standard which you have to follow are DeviceNet, HART, Profibus protocol. And one more example is IEC 61158, which you have to use at a field level, right? Just give me a moment. So the standard, basically, these are the standards which are set to regulate how the communication will happen between the two equipments using a sensor in a substation. Okay. And that is where the thing comes. Okay. Now, there are also certain standard which is set, like for example, this standard, this is a site where you can go. It is called IEEE Standard Association. It's a universal site where before developing any IoT, industrial IoT solution, you have to know what are the standards. These standards are also for robotics and automation. So they don't only talk about IoT sensors for industry, they also talk about the standard for robotic, the use of robotic in the industries. So these are some examples. There are some more standard example. So these are also IEC, where you can talk about or you can understand what are the kind of standard which are followed by different companies. And mostly you might have heard about ISO standard, that is also applicable. But more than ISO standard, it is IEC standard which are applicable. The latest standard is 2020. It started from this and it has gone to 2020. And these are the standards which regulate the industrial IoT and the landscape. Okay. Now, we'll take some example now. Industrial IoTs, as you all know, that are making the factories faster, smarter, more efficient. In every aspect, the manufacturing process can be monitored, it can be evaluated, it can be enhanced in terms of production with the use of industrial IoT. So in a smart factory, we have, so this is what industry IoT is doing. It is making it faster, smarter, and more efficient. And also the in a smart factory, when we are using sensors and devices, it communicate with each other, the machine communicate with each other, the data are exchanged in a real time using a secure network connection. Monitoring are happening from a remote or from a control room. So, and the remote monitoring can also use wireless communication. So for example, in this factory, the worker can communicate using a particular data which he has on the device in her hand to a person who might be a supervisor sitting somewhere else. So the monitoring is used within the field, or maybe it is a remote monitoring which can happen using a wireless or wired communication. The data which is generated from the sensors are collected, they are transferred and stored in cloud, right? And these data which are stored in the cloud or a data centers for monitoring and performing the data analysis helps the company in sensing out certain unusual situation. An example is if the temperature of a piece of the equipment exceed certain specified standard, the sensor can detect this. It can send a signal to stop the breakdown before they occur. So the data analysis also helps in also maintaining a scheduled maintenance, right? So the sensor can detect that when is the maintenance due. After this, if you don't do the machine maintenance, it's going to go for a downtime. Machines used in smart factory can send a repair alert, can already, I told you about preventive maintenance, reminder to the maintenance department that machine needed maintenance. The big data analytics can help the management sitting in the other part of the country, not where the manufacturing unit is established, can help them in monitoring the inventory, can help them in tracking the supply chain. They also, it can help them in doing, kind of what you say, the forecasting, that what is the demand in the market for the product, and how much will be the supply in the future. Can they go and manufacture and keep the product, or they go for just in time inventory? So all these are possible to possibly is improving the efficiency and process optimization. So there is no doubt that there is a great benefit of using the IoT within the factories. One of the vision of the smart factory is to able to have a fully automated system with almost zero labors. But there may rise a question that, is it replacing the human with robots? Right, as I told you all these things, that you can do all these kinds of things, right? So is it replacing the human with robots? Are we fully getting dependent on machines? Yes, that is a social issues which need to be addressed, but at the same time, there is a specialized kind of people. Now you don't require the manual labors. You don't require a labor to run the machine. You don't require a labor to monitor a machine. You don't require anybody to do anything. You just required a skilled people to monitor the data on their screen from remote people, not on the manufacturing floor, and control the entire system. Imagine oil drilling machine, for example, or even you have seen the water drilling machine, when they try to identify where the water is and under the ground, and they drill from there until they touch the water. So oil also, when the oil digging happens in the oil wells, or maybe you can say the oil, not refineries but oil well, even in refineries also they use it. So they basically don't know, it can be in the under the seabed. How do you human labor doesn't have that vision, doesn't have that capability to dig and go into the sea level and search for the oil. So it all happens through the sensor. They hit the right spot, dig the right spot, and also understand from the IoT and AI that whether it is a oil, crude oil, or it is something else, and they extract. So extraction of that oil also happens using that. So the IoTs in the factories can have various advantages, but what I am trying to tell you, student, is that the labors and the manual job is going to get replaced by machines. The industry will require skilled people, and where you people are having an opportunity, where you can learn to develop sensors, you can learn. And that's the reason I focus on projects, that the project will make you innovate certain things. These all ideas are the ideas from the people like you, who might have done during their study or maybe during the work, and they might have found some solution out of it. So skilled jobs are required nowadays. Even in factories, you will have an opportunity if you know these systems, these technology, either to create this technology and how to use this technology. So the advantage of this IoT factories are that it is increasing the the level of productivity, the risk of data breach within the smart factory is also reducing. Just a minute. So there are a lot of challenges also in this, because you're storing the data. This data can be hacked. This data can be breached in a smart factory system. So there is again one more field which you people are learning, some of you, that is cybersecurity. So you can see now AI, cloud computing, IoT, cybersecurity, how all these are linked. If you all can, you can all make a single project by integrating, which I will say transdisciplinary project. And transdisciplinary project means the IoT students can make IoT sensors, the cloud computing students can make the cloud computing storage device or hardware or software, and the AI people using the machine learning can develop the application to do the predictive maintenance or whatever you wish to do. And the cybersecurity people can look into the aspect of this data breaching and all. So you can see that the cyber security data protection is also a very important part of IoT. So everything is, IoT is actually becoming a very integrated part. So all these is what I told you, that it is again the war between the robots and the man in the future, which will happen. Now let us understand the type of sensor, students, in the industry. We talked about what is industry IoT, how it is going to be the big future, how it is going to, how companies are using. One example of GE I have given you. Now let us take the example of certain industry sensors. What are the different kinds of sensors? Now, unlike human, who uses their 5 basic senses, I already told about that many times. The machines don't have eyes, nose, and ears. They use controllers. They use physical devices. They cannot hear, see, and monitor the process just like human beings. So just like I was telling you that initially in the traditional factory system, you had human being using their 5 senses, which is eye, hearing, seeing, and touching. They, with the touch, they can understand the temperature. With the eye, they can understand the level of the pressure. With the hear, with the sound, they can understand certain things, and they will control it. Today, this is not required. So industrial control system use industrial sensor to help the controller perform their task and objective. So in this particular session today, I'm going to cover a couple of common industrial sensors which are used within the field of industrial automation system, like proximity sensors, temperature sensors, and pressure sensor. I wanted to, give you, there are actually one more sensor called level sensor, but the problem is that I didn't get a time to make a slide on that. So maybe in the other classes I may cover that level sensor with you. So today I'm going to cover 3 sensors, industrial sensors: proximity, temperature, and pressure sensors. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. The first one is called the proximatory sensors. The proximatory sensors are the sensors which basically focus or detect the presence of the object without any physical contact. That means that for example, when I was talking about the autonomous car basically detect a nearby object, right? The distance between the object. Just give me a few seconds. So the proximatory sensor detect a presence of an object without the physical contact. So the sensor need not get in touch with the thing. Like this proximatory sensor you might have seen in airport, where you have to pass, or maybe a mall where you have to pass through a gate, and without touching you, it can identify whether you're carrying any metal or any object, sharp object. It can be, you might have seen the proximatory sensors in the malls, in the shops, the retail shops, where they have a gate, so that if you don't pay and go without paying, so there is an RFID tag which is there. It start sensing that you have not paid, and that is there in the object. So when you go to the billing counter, they remove it so that it doesn't sense it. So those are called the proximatory sensors. In the proximatory sensors, what happens? Suppose this is a target and this is a sensor which is made. The sensor is operated through an electric signal. It sends an electric signals to the target, and in turn it receive a signal and make them understand whether the particular object is at what distance. If it is under a restrictive distance, then it try to tell you that it is under that. Now, these are some example. You can go to the site called, the pepper fucus.com. This is a site. You can make a note of that. It is pepperl.fuch.com. Okay, if you want, I can just write the name of this. So you can go to the site. I have just pasted the the URL of the site, and on this site you can find various kinds of proximity sensors. There are various kinds of proximity sensors: inductive, capacitive sensors, magnetic sensors, and there are a lot of accessories also they have. Then proximatory sensors also need to be protected from the harsh industrial environment, because if the sensors, for example, the car also have sensors in normal car, and now you can see in Karnataka you have heavy rains, and the car with the low chassis and the premium cars are suffering problem because they have sensors, and if these sensors are not protected, and if they are immersed in the water, they stop working. They stop sending an alert, they stop sending something. So this is what the sensor need to be protected from a harsh environment, industrial environment. So there are a lot of protective coating which is done, the water coating, waterproof coating, and all those kinds is done. So this is what I was telling you, that there are basically 5 kind of proximatory sensors: inductive, capacitive, I'll show you a video on this, magnetic, ultrasonic, and photoelectric. These 2 last one is the latest one, very expensive one also. And these are basically used in the industry, especially in the bottle manufacturing industries, where you have a tendency of actually the breakage, lot of damage. So that what should be the distance to package these bottles, put a cap on this bottle. So all those kinds you need sensors. It is also used in the mineral water factories. Again, they use approximatory sensors to understand. Proximatory sensors have a long lifespan. Okay. And there are a few more example of that I can show you. For example, in the wood industry, you use conveyor belt. And in this, you use basically the capacity proximatory sensors. In the food industries, where you have to use a can and fill a food, maybe frozen or any fresh, and then you close it with a lid. So in that, you use inductive proximatory sensors. So this is also the site which I will put it in your chat box. You can go ahead and you can just look into the site for different kinds of sensors with example in the industries. Okay. Sorry, it is little wrong. So you can make a note of it. It is LINKD, INKD. So that's the site. Now, before I go to temperature sensor, I will just show you a video on proximatory sensor.
Cutting machine tool methods are among some of the most widespread production processes in industry today. And this is no different at SICK AG. At its Reuter location in Germany, the company produces, among other things, components such as sensor housings.
Hello,
Both
ma'am.
precision and productivity have a decisive role to play in
Sir, unable to
during
see
this
video,
production
ma'am.
process. However, it is important to remember that a chain is only
I
ever
can't
as
see the
strong as
Anybody saying something?
But it's not visible.
Unable to see video, ma'am.
Sorry?
The video is not visible, ma'am.
the video is not visible.
Okay, fine. Can you see now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
machine tool methods are among some of the most widespread production processes in industry today. And this is no different at SICK AG. At its Reutte location in Germany, the company produces, among other things, components such as sensor housings. Both high precision and productivity have a decisive role to play in machining. During this production process, however, it is important to remember that a chain is only ever as strong as its weakest link. The failure of even a seemingly simple component, such as a proximity sensor, can lead to machine failure. The costs of the downtime that results as a consequence of replacing such a sensor can quickly add up to be many times what the sensor is actually worth. When developing the IMB inductive proximity sensor, SICK focused particularly on the long service life of the sensor, even in harsh environmental conditions. Its really long service life can be attributed to its redundant sealing concept, which combines the use of O-rings and a vacuum polymer casting process. The materials used have been tested for resistance to all common cooling lubricants. The IMB even helps to save time and therefore money during mounting. The visual adjustment indicator makes adjustment simple. The LED flashes until the sensing range has been set correctly. Self-locking nuts ensure a lasting and secure hold. In order to meet the increasing requirements of Industry 4.0, optional communication via IO-Link grants access to additional data. For instance, for condition monitoring or flawless identification of the sensor. Are you curious? Try the IMB for yourself within your own industry application parameters. IMB, the toughest decision you can make.
Okay. You can see how that, proximatory sensor was utilized and protected, and how it can detect a particular object at a particular distance and send the data related to that. And then there is an action triggered from the application, which is hosted on cloud computing platform. So all are interconnected over there. Any questions so far?
Yes, ma'am, I have one question.
Yeah, tell me.
How does cyber attack hamper the production in the industry, ma'am?
How does
Cyber attack hamper the production in the industry, ma'am?
Okay. So what happens if I'm talking about particularly about manufacturing industry, then this cyber, see, all your data which is coming from machines, right? Like from these sensors are stored in cloud computing. So if the cloud computing, if the server is storing and if there is no enough production on this data, and any external party can intrude and hack those data, they may change the data. They may make certain kind of or they may try to manipulate your data or manipulate. So your predictive maintenance, for example, if your data try to predict that there can be a downtime in your machine, or there is some kind of a problem going to happen in your machine in 2 days if you don't do that. And it will not tell. And ultimately you will suffer. Or it may steal the data from there, or it may manipulate the data in a way that your production, your wastage, and everything is hampered. Right? It is not a customer data which is going to, help the competitors in certain ways. And certain time, what happens? Certain companies, like I was talking in the last club about ransomware, there are examples where the group of people or the group of syndicate of criminals have attacked the cloud servers of a manufacturing unit. Like I think it is done with Cisco once in 2018 or 19, I'm not very sure. And they attacked, and the cloud server which used to collect all the data, they've frozen that. They didn't allow the application program to utilize that data, and so their entire factory stopped. So there is a challenge also that if see labors, there is a problem of strike, there's a problem, a lot of other problems are there, psychological or behavioral issues. But with the machines, if the data, because the entire IoT or in smart factories is working on the data and the application are hosted on the cloud computing. So that if it is able to gather the data from the sensor, but when the data goes and reside in the cloud computing and the cloud computing data is hacked, and that data, see, the application doesn't work without data. The application has to use the data, analyze, and then take a action. So if the data is not fueling the application and it stops, your entire production will stop. Then you can't say, no, 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 I have alternative, I'll go for manual. Many companies are smart, they do both. If there is something like this situation, they have manual process also. But the manual process will again bring back those problems of delay in the production, efficiency problem, increase in the manpower, utilization of resources like manpower, raw material, all those kinds. So your production, the IoTs have this kind of challenges where somebody can hack, abduct your data and not make this data available, and your entire production, your everything stops. Or you are not able to monitor your factory, or your machines can run, but it will not monitor, it will not do the smart working what it's supposed to do, and which will make the company go back 10 years back and day. So they have to pay. Cisco had to pay to the people in Bitcoins to, release their data and make them use this. Cybersecurity people have to actually come out with the solution for that. Okay, I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Now, yeah, tell me.
there was one more question, ma'am.
Yeah.
So how will the smart factory affect the employment rate?
How does the smart factory
Affects the employment, ma'am?
employment? Yes, that is a very, a challenging question or debatable question, right? Though the factories are replacing human labors with robotic machines, especially all the automobile company have done that. Also the warehouse management is also done by robots. So hardly you find, I will show you a video, and hardly you will find any labor there. Then the laborers are going to lose their jobs, right? And what will happen? This is a social issue. So as I told that, then now the laborers have to develop the skills. Not everybody can become an engineer like you all, but then they have to develop certain other skills. Other skills like monitoring the system, making use of that system and in that. But again, the number of labor requirement is reducing. So that is one social issues which with the industrial IoT everybody is going to face. How the country is going to address that we don't know. Like for example, use of robots in industry is allowed, but use of robots in other sectors of the business are not allowed. I still know those who have gone to Chennai, there is, or even in Bangalore now it is open, it's a restaurant called Robot, where robots are serving. And I have read his story. This person actually, it took him 6 years to convince the government that he is using, because in India, if you're using robots for everything, then tomorrow you have a driver as a robot. You will have, the maid as robot. So everybody is losing the job. And Indian economy already is a very poor economy. There are a lot of unorganized labor sectors who are dependent on manual jobs. So the government can't make this happen, but one day it will ultimately happen. But by that time, if the country economy is grown, the people GDP, the country GDP has grown, and the people disposable income grows, the literacy level grows, then maybe the new kind of jobs will evolve. If one kind of job is exiting, the other kind of job is entering. So you people have huge scope, but don't limit yourself. Last class also I told, don't limit yourself to one domain. Try to develop a solution using a multiple, discipline or multiple knowledge. How companies are doing it, right? So you can, but again, then it is a problem that you will become, the master, the jack of all and master of none. So you should not become like that also. So let us look into the other kinds of sensors also, students. Okay. Other kind of hello, yeah. So the other kind of a sensor is called temperature sensor. Very, very commonly used in companies, right? So the temperature sensor, industrial temperature sensor is very, very commonly used sensors in all factories, even small factories in India uses that. Temperature sensors are used for measuring the temperature and getting those data and converting data into current and voltage to be transferred to PLC, programmatic, the process. Now, they are considered analog device. They're not digital device. They are the analog device. Now the temperature sensor has become very popular after the COVID-19 has hit. So every place has now temperature sensors. And these temperature sensors doesn't require you to touch. So these temperature sensors are also proximatory sensor. You don't require to get in touch with the object to measure the temperature. So they are considered as an analog device, not a digital device. And these analog devices produce reading like millivolts, resistant values. Just a minute. Millivolts, resistant value. There are example of industrial temperature sensor provided by Siemens. So Siemens company is one of the, again, company which makes industrial, devices and solutions. So they are pioneered in the market in terms of making a temperature sensors. There is one more company which is called Omron, and Honeywell is also there in the industry temperature sensor. All of you can please go to their sites. Go to temperature sensors, Honeywell site, go to Omron, OMRON, I'll just write it here. So I'll write a site also. You can check there. You will get all these company, details of temperature sensors. You can read about that company, that how they are using these sensors. Just give me a few seconds. Difficult to type. Okay, so I've given that, and so you can actually go to Omron. They are in medical, devices also. They make those pressure machines, blood pressure machines, sugar machine, and all those. So Siemens is also there in that. Then Honeywell company is very big company. If you get a job, your life is made. Okay, they have a head office in Gurgaon. In general, both there are actually two type of industrial temperature sensors. One is called thermocouples, and the other is called the resistant temperature detectors, which is called RTDS. Right. So RTDS and thermocouples come in different shapes and models. You can also see a list of this in Omron site, Omron, which is a site. You can go and find out. There are different kinds of temperature controllers, general purpose, economy, all those kinds you can find out over there. The thermocouples actually are usually little bit thinner, and they may have two wires, but they are different device which is working on a different operational principles. So this is the thermocouple, which you can see. This is like wire kind with the two wires, having a two wires. Okay, now these are some more examples. So again, there are some articles and there are examples where you can go ahead and you can find how oil and energy gas are using the gas industry is using the temperature measurement in oil and gas, especially in the oil exploration, thing in the industry. The last kind of a sensor which I'm going to talk today, and then I'll go show you some videos, is about pressure sensors in the industry. Now, the pressure sensor is a device which basically measure the pressure of a gas or a steam or maybe a liquid. It can be milk boilers. You have boilers in the dairy farm where you boil the milk or a water. So the gas and the steam and the liquid which are boiled in the boilers, it measure the pressure of that. Just like a cooker, the pressure cooker in your house, which has if it has a pressure, it release it. If the pressure is not released, it bursts. So that situation can happen in machine also. So what it does, it measures the pressure of gas, steam, and liquid, and convert the value into electrical signals. Okay, so the gas, steam, and liquid pressure is measured by the pressure sensors, which is converted into electrical signals, and it is sent to PLC controllers. So there are some couple of example of pressure sensors. Like for example, it is not necessary that you have hot pressure sensors. You have cold pressure transmitters. They have the transmitters attached to them. In general, the sensor consists of sensing area and a transmitter part. So there is one sensing area and there is one transmitter. Sensing area can measure the pressure force applied to it, and the force deflect on the internal diaphragm inside the sensing area. And also the conversion of the deflection in the electric signal is also based on the principle. And the principle says, this is a, basically, as I told you that the temperature, pressure sensors have two parts. One is transmitter and one is a sensing area. This sensing area is facing toward the object. This can be in touch with the object, with the boilers and something. So it is, placed, attached to the boilers, which will sense the pressure. And then the transmitters is there, which will transmit the data. So what happens? It is based on a particular principle, and this is a sensing principle on which this particular thing is based. The sensing principle is a principle which basically focus on the deflection of electric signal, which focus on how the deflection in the electric signal is converted. How do you have a change in the resistance and the capacity? Right. So what happens here? The sensing principle is used to mention in the data sheet at the output of the sensing pressure, which is transmitted in the form of electric signals like volt and currents connected to an analog, right? Like I was telling you about this, that whenever there is a pressure applied to the sensing area, it will convert that pressure into a electric and the volt signals, and this electric and volt signals can come and bring the change into the resistance, capacitance, and something called piezoelectrical. So these are certain application which is based on sensing principles, which will be put into the data. This data will go, and the data will come and it will analyze what is the kind of a pressure, what action has to be taken if the pressure is too high, too low, what it is. So that value comes. There are some example here you can see. These are different kinds of pressure sensors. The pressure sensors basically also work with certain voltage of electric current, because that is also a problem. So the voltage is normally between 1 to 5, and the current is usually between 4 to 20 milliamps. Okay, so the value volt and current can represent from the pressure range actually can represent from 0 to 100. That is a sensor pressure range. For example, a sensor is designed to give an output of 4 milliamps, right? As I told you already, that the milliamps can be between 4 to 20, the current which is generated, which is transmitted. So the value volt and current, which can represent 0 to 100 of the pressure, sensor pressure range. And it is, as I was telling, the sensor is designed to give an output of 4 milliamps when it has 0 pressure, and 20 milliamps when it has 100 pressure. So the pressure range can be measured between 0 to 100. 0 is 4 milliamps current, and 100 is 20 milliamps currents. So the same applies for the voltage output also. Like 0 is 1 volt and 100 is 5 volt. So the pressure transmitter usually come with a display unit to show the process of pressure when it is used in the field, right? So these are some example you can see. These are the display unit, and this is a pressure again in the same site which I have given to you. You can go ahead and check this, the type of pressure sensors, what are the components of that. See here, this is how it is applied, and this is how it controls. So this all, the wheels you can see, this automatically get controlled. And this is how it works. The steam pressure and all those kinds, it automatically works after it does. So this is how the entire thing happens. The process one where the boiler, suppose let's say this is a boiler which is heated and it produces the steam, and the steam comes, there is a pressure sensor which is attached to the boilers. When the steam comes, the pressure sensor sense it, and if it is too high or too low, accordingly the process 2 will be communicated. Best example of this is the dairy industry. One of the very common application is the dairy, where the pressure sensor is used to measure, control, and regulate the pressure of the steam. And steam can be a result of the heat in different part of the manufacturing facility when they're boiling the milk to produce several product from the milk, like curd, or maybe the oil, sorry, what you call it, the ghee, desi ghee, which we say, I'm not able to remember the name of desi ghee in English, and butter and all. And the steam pressure is basically monitored there with the help of pressure sensor. And so the pressure sensor will send the data which help in opening and closing of the control valve. The control valve which basically open and control and release the pressure and regulate the steam, that helps with the help of a pressure sensor. Steam is too high, it will release the steam by opening the control valve. If it is too low, it will tighten the control valve. So using a pressure sensor in the food industry like milk and dairy processing, where the pressure sensors are basically used at a different stage to measure the steam, measure the pressure, monitor the pressure, and regulate the product pressure inside the tank or a boiler or a steam pressure. Okay, so I will stop it here and I will show you some related video now of pressure sensor, how it works.
Madam,
yeah,
this is general question. Most of the IoT components are being imported. Why not manufacturing in India itself, madam? What are the reasons?
No, but the scenario has changed, sir. Because Siemens companies are manufacturing, they have factories now and they're manufacturing it locally. Yeah, you can say there are not many Indian made sensors. The foreign companies are establishing, because the sensor making is not very great task today, because every factory is using, even traditional factories are using pressure sensor. It's a very old sensors, but now it is, the technology is improving. So locally it is made or not, that is a question mark. But I think the literacy rate in the IoTs is increasing. Maybe there are people who are going to produce better sensor than the company like Omron or Siemens or Honeywell, which are all foreign companies. All these companies have established their production units and they are producing it, but it is all foreign products. It has high product rate or the pricing. When locally it is made, the quality is not so good, sir. That is the reason why people, the factory, big factories will not go to a local people and buy that. But unless and until you have created, again, that is a management lesson, that you create, and then how do you create a brand out of it? Maybe your product is better than Honeywell, but then who will buy your product because they have trust on Honeywell? So that is one thing. So I will show you a video that how a pressure sensor work in a factory.
Wondering what exactly is a pressure sensor? Today, we will hopefully cover all of the questions you may have about pressure sensors. Before we get started on today's video, if you love our videos, be sure to click the like button below. Then make sure to click subscribe and the little bell to receive notifications of new RealPars videos. This way, you never miss another one. To understand pressure sensors, first, you need to understand pressure. Pressure is an expression of force exerted on a surface per unit area.
We commonly measure the pressure of liquids, air, and other gases, amongst other things. The standard unit for pressure is the Pascal. This is equivalent to 1 Newton per meter squared. A pressure sensor simply monitors this pressure and can display it in one of the several units known around the world. This is commonly the Pascal, bar, and PSI, or pounds per square inch in the United States. The pressure of the air in your tire is a great example of pressure and how it's measured. As we air the tire up, the force it exerts on the tire increases, causing the tire to inflate. This is monitored with a pressure sensor inside the tire on newer vehicles. So how does a pressure sensor work? In a nutshell, it converts the pressure to a small electrical signal that is transmitted and displayed. These are also commonly called pressure transmitters because of this. Two common signals that are used is a 4 to 20 milliamp signal and a 0 to 5 volt signal. Most pressure sensors work off of the piezoelectric effect. This is when a material creates an electric charge in response to stress. This stress is usually pressure, but can be twisting, bending, or vibrations. The pressure sensor detects the pressure and can determine the amount of pressure by measuring the electric charge. Pressure sensors need to be calibrated so it knows what voltage or milliamp signal corresponds to what pressure. This is a basic zero and span calibration, or minimum and maximum, which is a common job for maintenance personnel. In the Real Pars video, What is Sensor Calibration and Why is it Important?, we describe the sensor calibration in detail. What are some of the common types of pressure that you can measure with a pressure sensor? There are 3 common types that we use in the industry. First being gauge pressure. This is measured in reference to atmospheric pressure, which is typically 14.7 psi. You will show a positive pressure when it is above atmospheric pressure, and a negative when it is below atmospheric pressure. The next type is absolute pressure. Simply put, this is the pressure as measured against absolute vacuum. A full vacuum will have an absolute pressure of 0 psia and increase from there. If you need to read a pressure that is lower than atmospheric pressure, this is the type of sensor you would use.
In the multiverse of tech madness, chatbots are the future. Now, what if I told you you could build a chatbot on your own? This can certainly be a great addition to your data science portfolio.
The last type that is commonly monitored in the industry is differential pressure. This is exactly what it sounds like, the difference between 2 pressures, a pressure being measured and a reference pressure. In industry, pressure sensors are used for a wide variety of processes. Some common uses are to measure the pressure of steam. Steam is commonly used to heat many processes in manufacturing facilities. This pressure sensor on the steam system can serve multiple purposes though. First and most obvious is to observe and monitor the pressure. Another purpose is to control when and where steam can flow and regulate its pressure. Steam can build up a pressure in a vessel and become dangerous. We can use the pressure sensor as an input device to open and close a control valve to keep the pressure and steam flow regulated. This only requires simple programming in the PLC to achieve this. Pressure sensors are also installed next to filters in many industrial processes. If the filter begins to clog, the flow will decrease. As the flow of the liquid decreases, pressure can increase or decrease depending on which side of the filter is monitored. If you monitor the pressure, it will give you a simple indication that the filter is clogged and needs to be cleaned or replaced. A common use that isn't as obvious is the use of a pressure sensor as a level sensor. In an open tank, you can use the hydrostatic pressure that is measured at the sensor. With a little math, using the size of the tank and specific gravity of the liquid, we can determine how much of that liquid.
So I was talking about the level sensor. So level sensor is this, where you can understand the level of a particular or the quantity of a particular thing. For example, if this is a boiler, in the boiler you have a pressure sensor and it is getting boiled and the steam is produced. You can actually through the level sensor understand the level of the liquid, whether it is at what level, what is the volume.
Is in the tank. If the tank is closed, it isn't as simple of an installation. It is still a viable option though. This will require at least 2 sensors to measure differential pressure. The high pressure sensor would be located at the bottom of the tank, measuring the liquid pressure, and the low pressure sensor near the top, measuring the air pressure inside. A calculation can then be performed to figure out how much liquid is in the tank. Let's take a look back at what we have learned. Pressure is an expression of force exerted on a surface per unit area. The standard units are the Pascal, bar, and PSI, or pounds per square inch. Pressure sensors convert the pressure into an electrical signal that can be transmitted and displayed. This is why many sensors are referred to as transmitters. These sensors commonly measure gauge pressure, absolute pressure, and differential pressure.
Okay, so I'll just show you one more video, and that is the temperature sensor. Okay, so I'll show you the thermocouple.
నాకు గత 10 నెలల నుంచి కిడ్నీ ప్రాబ్లం చిన్నగా అయిపోయింది.
Hello everyone, welcome to this video. We will discuss how does a thermocouple work. Thermocouple is a kind of temperature that is used to measure the temperature. A thermocouple can measure a wide range of temperatures. It is a simple
This video is brought to you by us, Real Parts, the Thermocouple. If you're deciding what instruments are going to be placed on a machine or into a process, the more information you have, the better. Having said all that, let's start our walk down thermocouple lane. A thermocouple is an extremely simple device used to measure temperature. Thermocouples tend to be inexpensive, durable, and can be fabricated into a variety of shapes and sizes. A thermocouple is made up of two dissimilar metal wires. Dissimilar is just a fancy way of saying different, but for some unknown reason, that word tends to be used most of the time when discussing thermocouples. In any case, the metal wires are connected together in only one place, typically the tip of the thermocouple. Lots of manufacturers call that junction by different names: hot junction, measurement junction, sensing point, or sensing junction. Those terms all refer to the same thing, the place where the dissimilar metals are joined that will measure the temperature. The wires at the opposite end from the sensing junction are then left available to connect to some kind of measuring instrument like a temperature transmitter, a simple electronic display unit, or even directly to a PLC thermocouple input card. The wiring terminals on the measuring instrument are most often called the cold junction, while the hot junction refers to the tip of the thermocouple that will be exposed to the heat source of interest. The cold junction refers to the thermocouple wire connections that happen right at the measuring instrument, which typically is not exposed to the same thermal energy. All thermocouples work the same way. They generate a small voltage when they are exposed to heat. If you're interested in the detailed physics of the way this works, You can research topics like the thermoelectric effect or the Seebeck effect. But to put things in simpler terms, when you heat up a piece of metal, the electrons in the metal want to move around more and will tend to move through the metal away from the heat. Because electrons are negatively charged, the colder end of the piece of metal will have a negative charge compared to the hotter end. A thermocouple works based on the movement of the electrons in its metal wires due to the heat difference between the hot and cold junctions. If the two wires of the thermocouple were made up of the same type of metal, electrons in both wires would move away from the heat at roughly the same rate, so you couldn't really measure the difference in the charge of the two wires. But if you recall, thermocouples are made up of two different types of metal wire, and those wires are connected together only at the hot junction, the sensing end of the thermocouple. The different metals in those wires, or more accurately, the electrons in those different metal wires, react differently to heat. When exposed to heat, the electrons from one of the wires will want to move around at a certain rate. The electrons from the other wire will want to move around at a different rate. The wire that has the electrons that move more ends up being more negatively charged at the cold junction and will therefore be called the negative wire lead. The wire with the slower electrons won't build up as much of a charge, so it's called the positive wire lead. The difference in charge between the positive and negative wire leads can be measured and used to calculate the heat at the hot junction. This is the basic principle of how a thermocouple works. So let's look at this more closely at a specific thermocouple to make sure we've got it. Let's look closely at a type K thermocouple. A type K thermocouple is probably the most commonly used thermocouple in industrial applications because it responds predictably across a very wide range of temperatures, say around negative 330 degrees Fahrenheit to around positive 2,460 degrees Fahrenheit. The exact temperature ranges will change a bit based on how the manufacturer builds the body of the probe and the insulating materials used. But with that wide range, you can see why it can handle almost any application. Type K thermocouples are made from the metal alloys chromel and alumel. As we heat the wires, you will notice that the electrons in the chromel wire don't move around as much as the electrons in the alumel wire. Over a very short period of time, you can see the alumel wire has more electrons collecting at the cold junction, the cooler end, which means the alumel wire will have a negative charge compared to the chromel wire. This difference in charge, also called the voltage, can be measured. The more heat you apply to the metal wires, the more the electrons want to move around, and the more they move away from the heat. With the two different types of metal wire, the difference in the voltage will increase and decrease with changes in heat at the sensing point. The thermocouple voltages are very small. The actual change in voltage per degree Celsius is minuscule. For example, for a type K, the change is about 41 microvolts per degree Celsius. Also,
Okay, stop here. You can just go to this real parts and you can check this videos from, they have a lot of videos on various kinds of sensors and how to make the sensor also. You have all these information available. You can try out and do the project on developing the sensors. Do a joint project you can do this. So I just saw one question. I'll just go to that question in the chat box. Somebody has written, okay, what is Profibus protocol? Okay, so Profibus actually is a protocol which is used as a serial protocol behind a complex machinery. The complex machines are big machines which is used in very heavy industry. And these machines also required a monitoring measurement equipment to control the production process. So Profibus is an open protocol, rules and regulations which are used to, measure the or create the standard for the device which are connected to these heavy machines or the complex machines. Okay. Yeah, any more questions you have? You guys will wind up.
Ma'am, with your permission, can I come in?
Yeah, please tell me.
This is the course director this side. Ma'am, we have given them assignments. All the L2 have given assignments. I was going through, you have given a lot of videos and lot of inputs to them. Can they give assignments from those videos which you have given?
Yeah, they can give, but I am not going to, I just see, I gave them one kind of a project to do a real-time application, right? They have to either first write, research on that, and then they have to develop the product prototype and show. That I will be doing at the end of the
That will be in the month of November. Yes.
in the month of November, while the time
Yeah.
they develop. I'm just giving them different ideas how the companies are using, and these all ideas are not so difficult to do because these are
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I'll tell you what. You have given all the website details. Let them create. Let them write assignments on that. No, you will not evaluate. My L2 is going to evaluate that.
okay, they can do that. What I
They can
suggest
do
is
that because you have given some 10, 15 websites, and it's very, very interesting. Let them go through it and let them write it down. That way they will learn more. This is what I feel.
After every session, there should be a self-learning process which should happen.
Yes.
And self-learning process can happen. I can tell a iota of thing, a drop in the ocean.
Yes.
And they
Yes.
have to create at least a pound or maybe a glass of water out of that.
Absolutely.
So that they have to go ahead and either
Yes.
you can take a guided tour of what I suggest, or they may be like, I have shown certain videos. Now they can, if they have an interest, they can say, okay, how can I make a temperature sensor? How do I go ahead?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. We will make the L2 responsible now. We'll make the L2 responsible to make them work now.
What I suggest is that there's a very simple sensor you people can make. And this can be made by non-engineering student also. So you people are at least engineering. What you can do is make a sensor for pressure cooker. Don't go for industry at first. Do at a micro level. You have all of us as a pressure cooker in the house, right? There is already something which is there, so that what happens, it is manually happening. When the pressure is building up, what you call the whistle blows and it releases the pressure. What I'm trying to tell you is try to have a pressure sensors which will control this and make a pressure cooker out of it. You can take a pressure cooker and you can have a pressure sensor and temperature sensor both in that. And you can also build a level sensor. So you can build a pressure sensor to understand what is a pressure level with a display unit. You can build a temperature sensor which can measure the temperature of the food item which is cooking inside. And all these you can make and do it in the pressure cooker itself. You don't have to make a pressure cooker which are available already. You just make a sensor and use that in the pressure cooker and do this lab application or do this particular laboratory practice. And you
Thanks
can
a lot,
do that, because industry you can't directly go and you can say, I made this and use. Nobody till now have made a temperature sensor and a pressure sensor for cooker because nobody required it. But people are fond of fancy things. Maybe you can come out with a cooker with a pressure sensor and the what you called the temperature sensor. You can come for a vessels with a temperature and all these kinds of a sensor. Think innovatively. You never know where there is a demand. Apple create demand. Apple is not responding to the demand in the market. They create demand out of, and people respond to that demand. Why don't you create a demand? You'll say, oh, nobody is going to buy. Why they will buy? What is the use? So you create a use of it now. Okay, this is something fancy. See, who knew that the corona is going to come out with? How we used to measure the body temperature? That is also a sensor only. But we were using a mercury, the liquid, into that thermometer, which will, because of the pressure, the mercury will rise. Whatever is the temperature, it rises and it shows you the temperature. But today everybody is scared of using any device and putting in the mouth or any touching the sensors. So they want, every company is using a, temperature sensors, which are from the proximatory you can use. So you go there, your phone has the sensors where you want to take a selfie with your group of friends, you just show the hand and it takes the photo. I don't know which phone is that. But all those kinds of sensor, your car is full of, everywhere you have sensor. I am talking about industry sensor, which is a future, students. If you can develop a kind of a, IoT sensors, I told you what are the different sensors: for level pressure sensors, proximatory sensors, pressure sensor, and temperature. These are on. You can develop a new sensor. Okay, so I'll wind off now. You all can do it if you want. You can make a paper and you can write a paper, make a prototype and present. You know what, sir? I suggest that when they are doing a project in the month of November, if we can go personally, maybe on Sundays, and every center do an exhibit of that.
Absolutely, ma'am. We are planning that only, ma'am.
So if
We will invite you. We'll invite you in the center, maybe a district headquarters, where they will do a presentation of the prototype of the projects which you have given. We are working on that, ma'am. I think L2, we are all working on that, right? L2, can you speak up?
Yes, sir.
And
yes, sir.
Yes, sir. They're trying to do that.
You can also call some industry experts, so that if they see the project and if they see some kind of a utility out of it, you never know that it becomes a industry product and the company are ready to buy from you. So you
That's
can
a wonderful idea, ma'am, which you have given. We have already spoken to the managing directors of the company. Maybe when you visit and they show the prototype, that day we are going to invite the managing directors. They can also have a look at it. That's a wonderful idea, ma'am, which you have given. I think L2 and Harinakshi, please make a note what madam has told you. Okay, please make a note. I think we can call the industry experts on that day whenever the prototype exhibition is happening. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thanks a lot for your time. You have given extra time. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thank you.
So I will leave now. Okay, so try to think on it. Every session should end up in some reflection. Go ahead, go to the YouTube. A lot of videos are there. I have not made any IoT, industrial sensor, and I have not tried also. But at least you people are learning at a learning stage. I'm just giving you what information I have, and these all information is available on internet. From there only I'm giving you. So I'm compiling it and getting it for you. You develop your knowledge, and I think you will at least. It is not about gaining knowledge. It is about applying that knowledge into application. So do that. You are going to have a better opportunity, employment opportunity. If that is the aim in your life, then employment opportunity is going to be great. Okay, then thank you so much. Bye. Good night.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye.